Hey, what's up YouTube? What's going on? In today's new video, what I wanted to talk about and share with you guys is the story of one of the greatest hockey players of all time. And I want to talk about the story of his lower back problems and health issues that he had to deal with. And for those of you guys that don't know who I'm talking about, I'm going to be talking about the story of Mario Lemieux. So Mario Lemieux was my favorite hockey player growing up. He was the captain of the Pittsburgh Penguins, played center, and he stood about 6'4", so he was a pretty tall hockey player. Now, throughout his career, he had a lot of injuries, a lot of health problems, which significantly limited his career, and it was very unfortunate. But every time he had an injury or illness, he was able to come back from it and return to the game. So I want to share his story in today's video to hopefully provide you guys with some inspiration or motivation. If you're currently feeling down or just aren't optimistic about the process right now and are really having a tough time being patient with your recovery, this is what this video is for, and I hope it can provide some motivation and inspiration to you. So, to talk about Mario Lemieux's story, in his early 20s, he developed some significant lower back problems and was dealing with some significant lower back pain. And in 1990, he ended up having surgery. But prior to leading up to his surgery, he was playing through a lot of lower back pain. And so, from my understanding and looking at a lot of old articles and hearing the team doctor and some of the athletic trainers talk and stories about Mario, they talked about him having a herniated disc. Now, I'm not sure if he had multiple herniated discs, but he had a herniated disc from my understanding, and he had some arthritis going on at his facet joints, as well as some stress fractures going on in the low back. So he had a lot of problems going on, and he had pain that was going from his lower back down through his glutes and down through his leg. And there's been videos done before sharing Mario's story and actually Mario talking about what he went through. And Mario mentions how he wasn't able to bend over and he had to have the team trainers tie his skates before he went on the ice. And even when he was on the bench, he couldn't really hop the boards. He couldn't hop over the boards, or he had difficulty stretching his leg outwards to get over the boards. And I know he ended up having a cortisone injection for the pain. Now, I don't know if he had multiple injections, but just the fact that he had a cortisone injection showed that he was in significant pain and he was playing through a lot of pain. And it came to the point where in 1990 he ended up opting for surgery. Now, to my understanding, the surgery that he had involved shaving down some of the bone in his lumbar spine. Now, I don't know the specific surgery, I don't know specifically what went on, but from my understanding, they shaved some of his bone down to relieve some pressure on some nerve root or nerve roots that were being impinged on. And he ended up having a surgery. I believe it was successful initially, but I know he did end up having and developing problems after the surgery where he developed an infection which left him bedridden for 3 months in the hospital. And if you ever hear Mario's story, he talks about how he was never sure if he was going to be able to walk again, let alone play hockey again. And that kind of just goes to show the state of mind that he was in at the time, for him not knowing if he was going to be able to walk again and him being bedridden for about 3 months. That just goes to show how significant his issues were. Now, after that though, he was able to make a recovery and he was able to return to the game, and he ended up winning Stanley Cup in 1991 and 92, and he won the Conn Smythe both years with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this is definitely very inspiring because he had all these lower back issues going on, had a surgery, developed an infection, but then was able to return to the game and get back to things and return to the high level that he was playing at, and ultimately winning 2 cups with the Penguins, helping them win 2 cups. Now, while that may seem all enjoyable and inspiring, things actually ended up getting, in a sense, worse for Mario after this, because in 1993, he was diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma to be specific. And the cancer kept him out of playing for a period of time as well, because he ended up having radiation treatments for the cancer. And now, what was fascinating was he was able to overcome cancer, and this is in part why he was the magnificent Mario, because he overcame all his lower back problems, returned, overcame cancer, and then he ended up returning back to the game as well. However, in 1997, he ended up retiring. He ended up having a family, had kids, and just wanted to get away from the game. And I believe that he was just happy and content with where he was at and his legacy at the time. And upon his retirement, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame right away. However, he ended up returning though, again, a few years later in 2000, and he just wanted to show to his son who he was and how he was as a player, because his son never was able to see him play. And now that his son was a couple of years older now, a few years of age, he wanted to show his son the player that he was. And so he ended up returning back to the game. And now from my understanding, when he returned after his initial retirement, he had some lower back issues arise, but it wasn't anything significant that really kept him out for a long period of time, from my understanding. But he ended up retiring in 2005, 2006, so he played a handful of years in and out of the lineup. But during his retirement, the reason he did have to retire is because of a health issue. He had an irregular heartbeat, so he just stepped away from the game completely. He didn't want to risk it. He had his family, he had his legacy basically all ingrained already as one of the greatest hockey players to ever play the game, and arguably the best player to ever play for the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. And with that legacy, that's pretty amazing to have already set in stone like that. So for him, it wasn't really worth the risk, really, because he already did everything that he wanted to. But the point that I just wanted to make and share with you guys in this video is that here's Mario Lemieux, the greatest hockey player of all time, had disc herniation, had some severe lower back troubles, severe lower back pain, underwent cortisone injection, underwent surgery, had a bad infection afterwards, was able to return to the game, win 2 Stanley Cups, ended up having cancer, overcame cancer, was able to return to the game, and then he stepped away for a bit, and then he ended up returning again, just for his son though. Overall though, it's a fascinating story because, like I said, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, had all these lower back troubles, and was able to get back to it. And I just wanted to kind of touch on that story. And if you guys are interested in further looking into it, you can check out the video Fearless, where you can specifically hear Mario talk about what he was dealing with, what he was going through, and also what the team doctor and trainers were kind of saying at the time as well, and what they were seeing with Mario and their experiences working with Mario at the time, and what he was kind of dealing with regards to his lower back problems. Definitely a very inspirational story, and I wanted to just share that with any of you guys out there who may be currently not feeling optimistic with the process, maybe you're struggling with the process, and maybe you're trying to get back to an activity or sport, and you're just looking for some motivation. And so here's a motivational story where here's the arguably best hockey player of all time, who wasn't sure if he was able to walk again, let alone play hockey again, was able to get back to playing hockey and won 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes both those years, and then overcame cancer as well and returned to hockey. Pretty fascinating, to say the least. Definitely magnificent, and that's why he is the magnificent Mario. And that's all I wanted to share with you guys in this video, is just Mario's story and what he dealt with. Now, hopefully this little story that I shared with you guys can provide some inspiration, motivation to you. And if you have any questions, comments, guys, if there's anything you want me to cover in a future video, be sure to leave a comment below. And if you have any questions, comments, or there's anything you want me to specifically cover, please leave a comment below, and we'll wrap it up for this video. So all the best, guys. Have a successful and productive day, and take care.